The night she broke into the abandoned house. She thought she was committing a crime, but she had no idea that years later, the owner of that same house would stand at her door, holding a secret that would change her life forever. She was homeless, hungry, alone with her little daughter, and the house everyone feared became the only place that gave them hope. But when a mysterious knock echoed through the hallway one rainy evening, everything changed. Maria never imagined her life would collapse so quickly. 1 year earlier, her world still felt normal. Not perfect, not rich, but stable enough to smile through the hard days. Her husband David worked long shifts at a construction site across the city. The pay was small, but he always promised her the same thing before leaving every morning. One day will give Lily a better life. And somehow, Maria believed him every single time. Their tiny apartment wasn't much. The kitchen sink leaked constantly. The bedroom walls were cracked, and the heater barely worked during winter. But inside those walls, there was laughter. There were movie nights on an old couch, cheap birthday cakes with crooked candles, little drawings from Lily taped onto the refrigerator. It was home. David used to carry Lily on his shoulders through the apartment. While she laughed so loudly, the downstairs neighbor would bang on the ceiling with a broom. Maria would pretend to get angry. "You two are impossible." And David would grin. "But you love us." She did. More than anything. But happiness can disappear quietly, sometimes without warning. It happened on a Tuesday morning. Maria remembered every detail because trauma has a cruel way of freezing moments forever. The coffee machine was broken. Lily couldn't find her shoes. David kissed Maria on the forehead while rushing out the door. "Tell Lily I'll bring ice cream tonight." Those were the last words he ever said to her. At 2:17 p.m., Maria received the phone call. At first she thought it was spam. Then she heard the voice on the other side. Everything after that became blurry. An accident at the construction site. Faulty equipment. A collapsed steel beam. David died before the ambulance arrived. Maria remembered dropping the phone. Remembered screaming. Remembered Lily standing silently in the hallway, watching her mother fall apart without understanding why. The funeral passed like a nightmare. People came wearing black clothes and sympathetic expressions. They hugged her, promised support, said things like, "If you need anything, call me." But grief has a strange way of revealing who truly stays. Within weeks, most people disappeared back into their own lives. And reality arrived fast. The landlord still wanted rent. The electricity company still sent bills. The grocery store still expected payment. Maria tried everything. She applied for jobs, worked temporary cleaning shifts, skipped meals so Lily could eat. But every month became harder than the last. One evening, she sat at the kitchen table staring at overdue notices, while Lily colored beside her quietly. "Mom." Maria wiped her eyes quickly. "Yes, baby." "Are we poor?" The question hit harder than any bill. Maria forced a small smile. "No, sweetheart. But children notice everything." Lily looked around the apartment silently. "The fridge is emptier now." Maria's throat tightened. "We're just saving money." Lily nodded slowly like she understood. But she didn't. No 6-year-old should have to understand survival. Days became darker. Maria sold almost everything they owned. First the television, then David's tools, then her wedding ring. That one hurt the most. She sat inside a pawn shop, staring at the ring in the old man's hand, while he inspected it beneath a bright light. "It's not worth much," he muttered. Maria wanted to scream at him. Not worth much. That ring held 10 years of memories. It held promises, love, a life that no longer existed. But instead, she stayed silent. Because grief doesn't pay rent. 2 months later, the eviction notice arrived. Maria read it 3 times, hoping the words would somehow change. Final notice. She felt cold all over. That night, after Lily fell asleep, Maria sat alone on the bathroom floor and cried into a towel so her daughter wouldn't hear. She felt like a failure. Not because she lost money. Because she couldn't protect her child. The eviction happened 3 days later. The landlord avoided eye contact, while movers carried their remaining boxes outside. "I'm sorry," he said weakly. "I waited as long as I could." Maria nodded silently. She was too exhausted to argue anymore. Lily stood on the sidewalk clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Mom, why are they taking our things?" Maria knelt beside her. "We're going somewhere else for a little while." "Where?" Maria opened her mouth. But no words came out. Because she didn't know. That first night, they stayed at a shelter downtown. The room smelled like sweat and bleach. People argued loudly through thin walls. A baby cried almost all night. Lily stayed close to Maria constantly. "Can we go home tomorrow?" Maria kissed her forehead. "Soon." But the shelter was overcrowded. After 4 nights, they were told there was no more space. Maria begged quietly at the front desk. "Please, I have a child." The tired employee looked genuinely sorry. "I wish I could help." Outside, rain poured heavily onto the streets. Maria held Lily's hand while carrying 2 bags filled with everything they still owned. Cars passed them. People rushed by beneath umbrellas. Nobody stopped. Nobody noticed. Hours passed. Maria searched everywhere. Cheap motels were too expensive. Shelters were full. Churches closed early. By midnight, Lily could barely walk. "Mom, my feet hurt." Maria crouched beside her. Just a little more. But her own legs were shaking too. Cold wind pushed through the streets, while rain soaked their clothes completely. Lily's tiny hands felt frozen. Maria removed her own jacket and wrapped it around her daughter immediately. "What about you?" Lily asked softly. "I'm not cold." Another lie. The city suddenly felt enormous. Cruel. Heartless. Maria looked at glowing apartment windows above the streets and wondered how many people inside were safe and warm, while her daughter shivered outside. She hated herself for thinking bitter thoughts. But desperation changes people. At around 1 in the morning, they sat beneath a flickering bus stop light. Lily rested against her shoulder silently. Too tired to even complain anymore. Maria looked at her daughter's exhausted face and felt panic growing inside her chest. What if Lily got sick? What if someone dangerous approached them? What if this became their life forever? She wanted David. For the first time since his death, anger exploded inside her grief. "You promised me," she whispered under her breath. Tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "You promised we'd be okay." But dead people can't answer promises. After a while, Lily spoke quietly. "Mom." "Yes." "Did Dad leave because we did something bad?" Maria's heart shattered instantly. "No." She pulled Lily close immediately. "No, baby, never think that." "Then why did he go away?" Maria closed her eyes tightly. How do you explain death to a child who still believes missing people come back eventually? "He didn't want to leave." Lily looked down sadly. "I miss him." Maria couldn't speak for several seconds. Me too. Silence filled the bus stop again. Then Lily whispered something that nearly broke Maria completely. I don't like seeing you cry when you think I'm sleeping. Maria froze. Children notice everything, even pain hidden in darkness. Maria hugged her daughter tightly while the rain continued falling around them. At that moment, one terrifying realization settled into her heart. Nobody was coming to save them. No miracle. No family member. No sudden solution. If she wanted Lily to survive, she had to keep moving. Even if she was exhausted. Even if she was terrified. Even if she had nothing left inside her except love for her child. So Maria stood up slowly beneath the stormy sky, grabbed the heavy bags again, held Lily's tiny hand tightly, and walked deeper into the dark, empty streets searching for somewhere, anywhere, that could keep them alive for one more night. The streets grew quieter the deeper Maria and Lily walked into the night. Most stores had already closed. Streetlights flickered weakly above empty sidewalks. Rainwater rushed along broken curbs, while cold wind cut through Maria's soaked clothes. Her legs felt numb. Every step became harder than the last. But she kept walking because stopping felt dangerous. Lily held her hand silently now. Too exhausted to ask questions. Too tired to cry. At one point, Maria noticed her daughter stumbling slightly. She immediately knelt beside her. Are you okay? Lily nodded weakly. I'm sleepy. Maria looked around desperately. There was nowhere safe. No open buildings. No shelter in sight. Only darkness. She brushed wet hair away from Lily's forehead and forced another smile. We'll find somewhere soon. The words sounded emptier every time she said them. As they turned onto a narrow road near the edge of the city, Maria noticed something strange ahead. Behind rows of overgrown trees, partially hidden beneath shadows, stood an old house. It was massive, far larger than anything nearby. Even in the darkness, Maria could tell it had once been beautiful. Tall windows, stone walls, a wide porch stretching across the front. But now it looked forgotten. Nature had slowly swallowed parts of it whole. Vines climbed the walls. The front gate leaned sideways. Several windows were shattered. One section of the roof had collapsed inward years ago. The place looked like something people avoided on purpose. Lily stopped walking. Mom! Maria stared quietly at the house. What is it? Do you think ghosts live there? Under different circumstances, Maria might have laughed. But tonight, even she felt uneasy looking at the silent building. Wind moved through broken windows with a low, hollow sound. Still, it was dry. And right now, dry mattered more than fear. Maria squeezed Lily's hand gently. We're just going to rest for a little while. The rusty front gate screeched loudly as they pushed it open. The sound echoed across the empty property. Maria instantly looked around nervously. Nothing moved. No lights. No voices. No signs anyone had been there for years. Dead leaves covered the stone pathway leading to the porch. Every step crunched loudly beneath their feet. When they reached the front door, Maria hesitated. Part of her knew this was wrong. Breaking into someone's property. Entering a place that didn't belong to her. But another part of her, the exhausted mother trying to protect her child, didn't care anymore. She tried the handle carefully. Locked. Maria looked around and spotted a broken side window near the porch. I'll be right back, she whispered. Lily grabbed her arm immediately. Don't leave me. Maria softened instantly. I'm not leaving, I promise. Using a loose brick nearby, Maria carefully cleared the remaining glass from the broken window frame. Cold air rushed out from inside the house. The smell hit her first. Dust. Old wood. Years of silence. Maria climbed through carefully, then helped Lily inside. The flashlight on her phone barely illuminated the darkness. Dust floated through the beam like tiny ghosts. The floor creaked beneath every step. Furniture sat covered in white sheets. Spiderwebs stretched across corners. Old paintings hung crookedly on faded walls. The house felt frozen in time. Like whoever left never truly meant to stay gone forever. Lily stayed close behind Maria. "It's scary." Maria nodded quietly. "A little." Thunder rumbled outside. Rain slammed harder against the roof. Maria looked through the cracked windows and knew immediately they couldn't go back outside tonight. No matter how strange this place felt. As they moved deeper inside, Maria noticed signs that made the house feel even sadder. A coffee mug still sitting on a table. Books left open on shelves. A child's shoe near the staircase. Not abandoned carelessly. Abandoned suddenly. Eventually, they found what looked like an old living room. Most of the furniture remained intact beneath layers of dust. An old couch sat near a stone fireplace. Maria removed the dusty sheet covering it and coughed immediately. Lily sneezed twice. Despite everything, the couch looked usable. Maria placed their bags down slowly. "We'll rest here tonight." Lily climbed onto the couch carefully. "Are you sure nobody lives here?" Maria glanced around the dark room again. If someone did, they hadn't been back in a very long time. "I think it's empty." Lily curled into a small ball immediately. Within minutes, exhaustion pulled her asleep. Maria sat beside her quietly, listening. The old house made strange sounds constantly. Wood creaking. Wind moving through cracks. Pipes groaning softly inside the walls. Every noise kept Maria alert. But slowly, another feeling appeared beneath the fear. Relief. For the first time in days, Lily was warm. Safe from the rain. Maria leaned her head back against the couch and closed her eyes for a moment. She didn't even realize she had fallen asleep until sunlight touched her face. Morning arrived softly through cracked windows. For a few seconds, Maria forgot where they were. Then reality returned instantly. The abandoned house. The storm. Their situation. She sat up quickly. Lily was still asleep beside her, clutching her stuffed rabbit tightly. The house looked different during daylight. Less frightening. Still damaged. Still empty. But not evil. Maria stood slowly and explored further while Lily rested. The kitchen was old but surprisingly large. Most cabinets were empty, though she found a few canned goods hidden in the back of a pantry. Expired but only by a year. The sink no longer worked. Neither did the electricity. But near the back door, Maria discovered something unexpected. A manual water pump outside. Rust covered most of it. Still, when she pushed the handle experimentally, water sputtered out. Clean water. Maria almost cried from relief. She washed her face immediately, then filled an old pot for Lily. For the first time in days, things didn't feel completely hopeless. When Lily finally woke up, Maria handed her water carefully. Lily smiled after drinking. "It tastes cold." Maria smiled back faintly. The small moment felt strangely precious. As the day passed, rain continued pouring outside. Leaving wasn't possible yet. So Maria began cleaning small areas around the living room, simply to stay busy. She folded dusty blankets she found upstairs. swept broken glass into corners, opened windows slightly for fresh air. Lily helped proudly despite how tired she still looked. At one point, she found an old music box hidden inside a cabinet. When she twisted it gently, a soft melody filled the room. Both of them froze. The sound felt almost magical inside the silent house. Lily smiled for the first time in weeks. "It's pretty." Maria watched her daughter carefully. That tiny smile mattered more than anything. As evening approached, Maria stood near one of the large windows watching rain drip from dead vines outside. She knew they couldn't stay forever. Eventually someone might come, or police might discover them. But for now, they had walls, a roof, a place to breathe. That night they slept in the living room again. And somehow the house already felt less cold. The following morning, sunlight finally replaced the storm. Maria prepared to leave. She packed their bags quietly while Lily rubbed sleep from her eyes. "Are we going?" Maria looked around the room. The old couch, the quiet fireplace, the dusty floors. Then she looked outside. The streets beyond the trees offered nothing. No safety, no home, no future, only survival. Lily noticed her hesitation immediately. "Can we stay one more night?" Maria opened her mouth to answer, but stopped, because deep down, a terrifying truth had already formed inside her heart. This abandoned house was the closest thing they had to a home. And for the first time since losing everything, she wasn't ready to leave it behind the first week. Inside the abandoned house felt temporary. Maria kept telling herself the same thing every morning. Just a few more days. Just until she found work. Just until life became stable again. Just until they had somewhere real to go. But days quietly turned into weeks. And somehow, the old broken house slowly began changing around them. Or maybe they were the ones changing. Every morning, Maria woke before sunrise. Cold air still drifted through broken windows, but the house no longer felt completely lifeless. She would wrap herself in an old blanket, step carefully across the creaking floors, and begin cleaning another small part of the home. At first, it was simply survival. Sweeping glass away so Lily wouldn't cut her feet. Removing moldy curtains. Scrubbing dust from counters thick enough to leave marks in her skin. But over time, the cleaning became something else. A purpose. The house had clearly been abandoned for years. Yet underneath the dirt and decay, traces of love still remained hidden everywhere. Framed family photos tucked into drawers. Children's books stacked neatly beside old beds. A faded birthday banner still hanging in one hallway upstairs. Every room told pieces of a forgotten story. Sometimes Maria would stop while cleaning and stare silently at these little remains of another family's life. Who were they? Why did they leave everything behind? Did they ever think they'd return? The question stayed inside her constantly. One afternoon, while clearing old boxes from the dining room, Lily discovered a cracked photo album hidden beneath a chair. "Mom, look." Maria sat beside her carefully. Inside were photographs from years earlier. A smiling man standing beside a woman in a yellow dress. A young boy holding a baseball glove. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Summer picnics in the backyard. The same house looked completely different back then. Bright. Warm. Alive. Lily pointed at one picture. "They look happy." Maria nodded quietly. "They do." Lily looked around the dusty dining room. "Do you think they miss this place?" Maria didn't answer immediately. Something about the question hurt unexpectedly. Because yes, someone probably did miss this house. Very deeply. That evening, Maria cooked canned soup over a small portable stove she'd bought from a thrift shop with her last few dollars. Lily sat nearby coloring on scraps of paper, while soft rain tapped against the windows again. For the first time in months, the sound of rain no longer terrified Maria. Inside the house, they were protected from it. And that feeling alone felt almost dangerous. Because comfort creates attachment, and attachment creates fear of loss. Maria knew she shouldn't get too comfortable here. But little by little, the house stopped feeling borrowed. It began feeling theirs. A few weeks later, Maria finally found part-time work at a diner about 20 minutes away. The owner, an older woman named Denise, hired her mostly out of sympathy after noticing how exhausted she looked during the interview. "You willing to work hard?" Denise asked. Maria nodded immediately. "I'll do anything." And she meant it. The pay was small. The shifts were long. But it was enough to buy food again. Real food. The first night Maria returned home carrying groceries, Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "Apples." Maria laughed softly. "Yes, apples. And cereal." "Don't get too excited," Maria teased gently. But Lily already hugged the cereal box like treasure. Maria nearly cried watching her. Poverty changes the meaning of small things. A loaf of bread becomes relief. Warm socks become luxury. Fruit becomes celebration. As winter slowly approached, the house became harder to maintain. Cold wind pushed through cracks in the walls. Water leaked through damaged sections of the roof whenever storms arrived. Maria spent evenings trying to repair whatever she could. She covered broken windows with plastic sheets, used old wood from the garage to patch weak flooring, watched online repair videos on her cheap second-hand phone. Sometimes she failed completely. Other times, surprisingly, she succeeded. And each tiny improvement made the house feel more alive. One Saturday afternoon, Lily ran excitedly into the kitchen. "Mom, come outside." Maria followed her into the backyard. At first, she didn't understand what Lily was pointing at. Then she saw them. Tiny flowers. Small yellow flowers pushing through dead grass near the fence. Maria stared quietly. The yard had looked dead for years. Yet somehow, life was returning. Lily smiled proudly. "I think the house likes us." Maria laughed softly at first. But later that night, lying awake beneath old blankets, she thought about those words again. Because strangely, it almost felt true. The house no longer felt cold and abandoned the way it had on their first night. Now there was music from Lily's humming echoing through hallways. There was cooking in the kitchen. Footsteps. Laughter. Life. Even the neighbors nearby slowly began noticing changes. At first, people avoided the property entirely. The abandoned mansion had become something of a local ghost story over the years. Kids dared each other to approach the gate at night. But now, lights glowed inside the windows again. One elderly neighbor eventually approached Maria while she cleaned the porch. "I thought nobody would ever touch this place again," the woman admitted. Maria froze nervously, afraid she might call police. Instead, the woman simply handed her a small bag. Inside were homemade muffins. "You've made the place look less sad." Maria didn't know what to say. Kindness felt unfamiliar after so many cruel months. "Thank you," she whispered. The woman smiled softly toward Lily playing nearby. Children bring life back into places. After that, more neighbors slowly warmed to them. Some brought extra blankets. Others donated old furniture. One man even helped repair part of the leaking roof. Nobody asked too many questions, maybe because they already understood enough. The house itself also slowly revealed more secrets. One evening while cleaning upstairs, Maria found a locked bedroom door partially jammed shut. After several attempts, she finally pushed it open. Dust exploded into the air immediately. The room inside remained untouched. Completely untouched. Unlike the rest of the house, this room looked frozen in time. A child's room. Toy cars lined shelves carefully. Baseball posters hung on walls. Tiny shoes rested beside the bed, exactly where they'd been left years earlier. Maria stepped inside slowly. Something about the room felt sacred, almost painful. Then she noticed the framed photograph beside the bed. The same family from the photo album. Only closer this time. The father smiling proudly. The mother holding their son tightly. Written across the bottom in faded ink were the words, "Our forever home." Maria felt chills spread through her. This house wasn't abandoned because people stopped caring. It was abandoned because something terrible happened. That realization changed everything. From that moment forward, Maria treated the house differently. More carefully. More respectfully. As though she were protecting someone else's memories, instead of merely hiding inside empty walls. That night during dinner, Lily noticed Maria growing quiet. "What's wrong?" Maria hesitated. "I found the little boy's room upstairs." Lily lowered her spoon. "The family's boy." Maria nodded. "Do you think he's okay?" The question hung heavily between them. Maria forced a gentle smile. "I hope so." Lily looked around the kitchen thoughtfully. "Maybe we're taking care of their house until they come back." Again. Children sometimes say things adults are too broken to believe. Maria looked toward the dark hallway leading upstairs. Then at the repaired kitchen table. The warm soup steaming softly. The sound of Lily breathing safely nearby. And suddenly she realized something terrifying. For the first time since David died, this place no longer felt temporary. It felt like the beginning of something. Something fragile. Something dangerous. Hope nearly a year had passed since Maria and Lily first stepped into the abandoned house during that stormy night. By now, the place barely resembled the broken shell they had discovered. The front porch had been repaired. Fresh curtains hung near the windows. Flowers bloomed beside the walkway. Lily watered every morning before school. Even the neighbors spoke differently about the old mansion now. People no longer called it haunted. They called it alive again. Maria worked longer shifts at the diner these days. The pay still wasn't much, but it covered food, clothes, and school supplies for Lily. Little by little, life stopped feeling like pure survival. Some nights, Maria would sit quietly on the porch after Lily fell asleep and simply listen to the peaceful silence around her. No traffic. No shouting. No fear of being thrown out onto the streets again. Yet despite everything improving, one fear never fully disappeared. The owner. Every time headlights slowed near the property, Maria's stomach tightened. Every unexpected sound near the gate made her heart race. Because deep down, she knew this happiness rested on borrowed time. The house belonged to someone. And someday, that someone might return. One rainy evening in late autumn, Maria arrived home exhausted after a double shift. Her shoes were soaked from walking through puddles, and her back ached terribly. But the moment she opened the front door, Lily ran toward her excitedly. "You're late." Maria smiled tiredly. "I know, Denise needed help closing." "Guess what?" "What?" Lily grabbed her hand immediately and dragged her toward the kitchen. I made soup. Maria stared at the stove in surprise. Technically, it was mostly canned soup, with extra vegetables added badly unevenly. But Maria's eyes still filled with tears. You made this? Lily nodded proudly. I watched videos. Maria laughed softly despite her exhaustion. Well, it smells amazing. The two of them ate dinner, while rain tapped gently against the windows outside. Simple moments like this once felt impossible. Now they felt precious. After dinner, Lily headed upstairs to finish homework, while Maria cleaned the kitchen quietly. Thunder rumbled far away. Wind pushed softly against the old walls. Then suddenly, knock, knock, knock. Maria froze instantly. The plate slipped slightly from her hands. Nobody visited this late. Another knock echoed through the house. Slower this time. Heavier. Maria's chest tightened painfully. Lily peeked nervously from the staircase upstairs. Mom. Maria forced calm into her voice. It's okay. But it was. Something deep inside her already knew. This moment had finally arrived. Maria walked slowly toward the front door, while her pulse pounded violently in her ears. The knocking stopped. Only rain remained. She reached for the handle carefully. For one terrifying second, she considered pretending nobody was home. But the glowing lights inside the house made that impossible. Taking a deep breath, Maria opened the door. A tall, older man stood outside beneath the rain. Gray hair. Dark coat soaked with water. Sharp, tired eyes. And in his hand was an old silver key. Maria's blood ran cold instantly. The man looked past her into the house without speaking. His eyes moved slowly across the warm lights. The repaired walls. The flowers visible through the hallway. He looked stunned, like someone staring at a ghost. Maria's throat tightened. I'm sorry, she whispered immediately. The man blinked, almost pulled from another world. Maria stepped back nervously. We can leave tonight if you want. Please just give us a little time. The man looked confused by her response. Leave. Maria nodded quickly. We didn't mean to stay this long. We had nowhere else and... His gaze suddenly landed on the framed family photograph hanging near the staircase. Everything in his face changed instantly. The color drained from him. His breathing became uneven. Slowly, he stepped inside without saying another word. Maria stood frozen near the doorway while rain blew softly inside behind them. The man approached the photograph carefully, almost trembling. Then finally, in a broken voice, he spoke. That picture. Maria felt her stomach twist. That's my wife, he whispered. His finger moved toward the little boy in the frame. And my son. Silence crushed the room completely. Lily slowly descended halfway down the staircase, staring nervously at the stranger. Maria barely noticed, because suddenly everything made sense. The untouched child's room. The abandoned belongings. The sadness hidden inside every corner of the house. The owner hadn't abandoned this place carelessly. He had abandoned it because staying hurt too much. The man closed his eyes briefly. My name is Daniel. Maria swallowed hard. I'm Maria and this is Lily. Lily waved awkwardly from the stairs. Daniel looked around the house again slowly. But this time his expression wasn't anger. It was grief. Pure, overwhelming grief. You fixed it, he murmured. Maria lowered her eyes. We tried. Daniel touched the dining table softly as he walked past it. You even repaired the scratch. Maria blinked in surprise. A long, thin mark crossed one side of the wood. "My son made that with toy cars when he was 6, Daniel whispered faintly. The room fell silent again. Then, unexpectedly, Daniel laughed quietly. A sad, broken laugh. "He drove my wife insane with those cars." Maria didn't know what to say. Everything about this moment felt unreal. She had imagined the owner returning countless times over the past year. But never like this. Never someone carrying this much sadness. Daniel slowly wandered through the house, while Maria followed nervously behind. Every room seemed to trigger another memory. In the kitchen, he paused near the refrigerator. "My wife used to leave notes here every morning." In the hallway, he stopped beside faded wallpaper. "We measured our son's height against this wall every birthday." Upstairs became even harder. The moment Daniel entered the child's bedroom, he completely froze. The room remained exactly as Maria found it months earlier. Untouched. Protected. Daniel stared silently at the baseball glove near the bed. Then at the small shoes beside the dresser. Maria noticed his hands shaking slightly. "He loved baseball," Daniel whispered. His voice cracked badly this time. "He wanted to become a professional player someday." Maria suddenly realized something heartbreaking. Daniel had probably avoided this room for years. And now he was standing inside it again, because strangers accidentally brought life back into his dead house. After several long moments, Daniel sat slowly on the edge of the bed. His eyes filled with tears, he no longer tried hiding. "I thought leaving this place would make things easier," he admitted quietly. "But grief follows you everywhere." Maria stood silently near the doorway, unsure whether to speak or disappear entirely. Then Daniel looked at her suddenly. "Why did you stay?" The question caught her off guard. Maria hesitated before answering honestly. "Because we had nowhere else." Daniel nodded faintly. But Maria continued. "At first it was only survival." Her eyes moved around the room. Then the house started feeling alive again. Daniel looked down quietly. "I stopped coming here after the accident." Maria's chest tightened. "What happened?" For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then finally, "A drunk driver." The words barely escaped him. "My wife and son died instantly." Maria felt tears sting her own eyes. Daniel looked toward the window where rain slid softly down the glass. "After the funeral, I locked the house and left." His face hardened slightly. "I couldn't breathe inside these walls anymore." Maria suddenly understood the loneliness hidden inside this place all along. The house wasn't empty because nobody loved it. It was empty because someone loved it too much. Later that evening, Maria offered Daniel dinner awkwardly. She expected him to refuse. Instead, he surprised her. "I'd like that." The three of them sat together around the dining table beneath warm kitchen lights. The same table that had once belonged to Daniel's family. At first, conversation felt uncomfortable. Careful. Fragile. But Lily changed that quickly. Children have a strange ability to soften pain adults struggle carrying. Within minutes, she began asking Daniel questions. "Did your son like cartoons?" Daniel smiled faintly. "He loved them." "What was his name?" Daniel's expression softened deeply. "Ethan." Lily grinned. "That's a cool name." For the first time since arriving, genuine warmth appeared in Daniel's face. And slowly, the house no longer felt filled with ghosts. It felt filled with memories returning home again. The rain had finally stopped by the time Daniel left the house that night. Maria stood quietly at the front door, watching his car disappear down the empty road, while dozens of thoughts raced through her mind. Nothing about the evening felt real. For months, she had feared this exact moment. The owner returning, losing the house, starting over again with nowhere to go. But instead, she had seen something entirely different. A man carrying grief so heavy it had buried him for years. When Maria finally closed the front door, she found Lily sitting on the staircase hugging her knees. "Is he angry at us?" Lily asked softly. Maria shook her head slowly. "No." "Then why was he crying?" Maria looked toward the hallway upstairs, where the old child's bedroom remained untouched. "Because sometimes people lose things they never stop missing." Lily stayed quiet for a moment. Then she whispered something unexpected. "I think the house missed him too." Maria smiled sadly. Maybe it had. The next few days felt strangely uncertain. Daniel didn't return immediately. Part of Maria worried she had imagined the kindness in his eyes that night. Maybe he only needed time before asking them to leave officially. Every knock at the door still made her nervous. Every passing car tightened her chest again. But 3 days later, Daniel returned. This time carrying a small cardboard box. Maria invited him inside carefully, while Lily greeted him excitedly from the living room. "You came back." Daniel smiled softly. "I said I would." There was less sadness in his face now. Still grief. Still pain. But something gentler had appeared beneath it. Like the house itself was slowly reopening a locked part of his heart. Daniel placed the box carefully on the dining table. "These belong to Ethan," he explained quietly. Inside were old baseball cards, toy cars, and small drawings folded with age. Lily stared at them carefully. "Can I look?" Daniel nodded. For nearly an hour, Lily listened while Daniel shared stories about his son. How Ethan once broke a kitchen window trying to play baseball indoors. How he hated vegetables. How he used to race toy cars through the hallway until his mother shouted at him. For the first time in years, laughter filled the upstairs rooms again. Real laughter. Not forced. Not painful. And Maria noticed something important. Daniel no longer looked at the house like a graveyard. He looked at it like home. Over the next several weeks, Daniel visited often. Sometimes for dinner. Sometimes just to sit quietly on the porch. Slowly, he became part of their lives in ways none of them expected. He helped repair the leaking roof properly before winter arrived. He fixed broken pipes in the basement. He even taught Lily how to plant flowers in the garden. Maria watched the transformation carefully. Not only in the house, but in Daniel himself. The lonely, broken man who first arrived carrying grief in his eyes now smiled more easily around Lily. He stayed longer each visit. Sometimes Maria caught him staring around the house silently, as though reconnecting with pieces of himself he thought were gone forever. One evening, after Lily went upstairs to sleep, Daniel and Maria sat quietly in the kitchen drinking coffee. The old clock ticked softly nearby. Daniel looked around the room thoughtfully. "You know," he said quietly, "after my family died, everyone kept telling me time would heal things." Maria listened silently. But time didn't heal anything. His eyes lowered toward his coffee cup. It just made the silence louder. Maria understood that feeling more than she wanted to admit. After David died, people expected her grief to shrink politely over time. But grief doesn't disappear. It changes shape. It hides inside ordinary moments. Inside empty chairs. Inside memories triggered by random smells or songs. "You love them very much," Maria said softly. Daniel smiled sadly. "They were my whole world." Silence settled between them again. Then Daniel looked toward the staircase, where Lily had disappeared earlier. And somehow, your daughter brought life back into this place. Maria's eyes filled slightly. She loves this house. Daniel nodded slowly. So did my wife. A few days later, Daniel arrived carrying another object. An old metal box covered in dust. I found this in storage, he explained. The box had belonged to his wife, Claire. Inside were letters, photographs, and journals carefully tied together with ribbon. Maria felt hesitant touching such personal memories. But Daniel gently handed her one folded envelope. There's something I think you should read. Maria opened it carefully. The handwriting inside was elegant but faded with age. It was a letter Claire had written years before her death. Not to anyone specific. Just thoughts written during one quiet evening. Maria began reading silently. If this house ever feels empty one day, I hope it becomes a place where someone hurting can still find warmth. A home should never belong only to memories. It should belong to love, laughter, and people who need shelter when life becomes cruel. Maria stopped breathing for a moment. Her eyes lifted slowly toward Daniel. He nodded quietly. I found that letter after you came here. Maria looked back down at the page with trembling hands. The words felt impossible. As though somehow, Claire herself had already imagined someone like them, arriving one day. Daniel leaned back softly in his chair. When I first saw lights in the windows again, I thought I'd be furious. He looked around the warm kitchen. But instead, I realized this is exactly what Claire would have wanted. Maria couldn't speak. Too many emotions crashed through her at once. Relief, disbelief, gratitude, and something deeper. The terrifying realization that maybe their arrival here had not been random at all. A week later, Daniel asked Maria to meet him in town. She became nervous immediately. Is everything okay? Daniel simply smiled. Just come with me. They entered a small legal office downtown. Maria frowned in confusion. Daniel, what is this? You'll see. An hour later, Maria sat frozen in complete shock while legal papers rested in front of her. Transfer documents. Partial ownership of the house. Maria stared at the papers repeatedly, as if unable to understand the words. No. Daniel smiled softly. You rebuilt this place. Maria shook her head instantly. It's your home. It was. Daniel looked out the office window quietly. But homes aren't meant to stay empty forever. Maria's hands trembled. I can't accept this. Yes, you can. His voice remained calm but firm. You gave this house something I couldn't after my family died. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Life. Silence swallowed the room. Daniel looked directly at her. You and Lily saved this place. Maria finally broke down crying. Not because of the house itself, but because after years of loss, fear, rejection, and surviving, someone had finally chosen kindness instead of pushing them away. That night, the three of them ate dinner together on the porch beneath glowing lights, while cool evening wind moved softly through the trees. Lily laughed while showing Daniel flowers blooming beside the walkway. Maria watched them quietly. An old man shattered by grief. A little girl who once slept on freezing streets. A mother who thought the world had forgotten her. 3 broken lives somehow finding each other inside an abandoned house. And for the first time in years, the future no longer felt frightening. Months later, neighbors often smiled whenever they passed the old mansion. The once-forgotten house now glowed warmly every evening. Music drifted from open windows. Flowers filled the garden. Laughter echoed through hallways once buried in silence. People who never knew the full story simply called it beautiful. But the truth was far deeper than that. Because the house itself had never truly needed saving, the people inside it did. Daniel eventually admitted something to Maria one quiet afternoon. "The night I returned," he confessed, "I almost turned around before knocking." Maria looked surprised. "Why?" "Because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Of remembering how it felt to love this place." He looked toward Lily, running through the yard outside. But sometimes healing begins the moment we stop running from pain. Years later, Lily would still tell people the same story whenever they asked about the old mansion. She would smile and say, "It wasn't abandoned. It was just waiting for lonely people to find each other." And maybe she was right. Because life has a strange way of guiding broken souls toward the places meant to heal them. Sometimes family isn't created by blood. Sometimes it's created by kindness, by second chances, by open doors, by people choosing to stay when life becomes difficult. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can completely rewrite someone's future. Because a person who has lost everything doesn't always need money or miracles. Sometimes they simply need one safe place, one caring heart, and one chance to begin again. Disclaimer: this story is fictional and created for entertainment and inspirational purposes only. Any names, characters, places, or events are either imagined or used symbolically to deliver an emotional message about hope, kindness, and second chances. Any resemblance to real people or events is purely coincidental.